Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. August hasn't been a very inspiring month so far, but will things be improving during the next 2 weeks? Well, in the short term, it's quite a mixed picture. This animation runs from 18 GMT, Wednesday, August the 11th. At the outset, there are outbreaks of rain in parts of the north and the west of the UK. It's generally drier in central and eastern England, Northern Ireland, western Scotland. In the short term, the risk of showers is mostly in the west and the northwest. There could be a few spots of rain on Thursday in central and southern England for a time, but not a great deal. But as we head towards the weekend, it's worth keeping an eye to the southwest because on this animation, small disturbances are developing and they're running northeastwards towards the UK, bringing the possibility of some showery rain through the weekend to central and then southern counties, but there is quite a lot of uncertainty about the details of how these will develop and just how much influence they're going to have. On this sequence, we see the greatest risk of rain in the south is probably on Sunday. This is 12 GMT. You can see some showery rain there running eastwards, northeastwards across southern counties. But as I say, do keep up to date with the short range forecasts as the time approaches if you're planning a barbecue or any outdoor activities. Into the early part of next week, and the showery theme looks set to continue for a time. But by Wednesday, August the 18th, on this sequence, high pressure's building in quite strongly from the west and it's bringing drier conditions right across the country. Just a hint here of it remaining wetter in the far northeast. Now, the Perseids meteor shower peaks on August the 12th, so I just thought I'd bring up a chart showing the cloud forecast at 23 GMT. On this plot, the light areas are indicating clear sky, the dark ones are cloudier conditions. So hopefully you can see the UK, it's sort of going around here. It's the centre of this plot. So if this prediction's correct, there should be quite a lot of clear periods around. So fingers crossed if you're hoping to see the meteors. It may not be bad at all in much of the UK. I'll post some links to the latest cloud forecast charts in the description below this video if you do want to keep an eye on how things are shaping up. Temperatures, well, there's going to be a fair amount of variance through the first week, but it's not going to be particularly warm at any point. Weather sunshine, so it should feel pleasant. This chart's an example. 15 GMT, Saturday, August the 14th, generated using data from the UK Met Office UKV model. You can see values of 21, 22, 23 across much of central and southern Britain, cooler as you head northwards. So it's not too far from the seasonal norm, but as I say, it will be these temperatures are going to be largely dependent on the extent of cloud cover, rain, sunshine, etc. Also, with that deep area of low pressure centred close to the northwest during the first several days of the forecast period, there is a potential for it to be quite windy at times. Again, I'm just using this chart to illustrate the likely conditions. It's for Thursday, the 12th of August, 15 GMT, showing maximum forecast wind gust speeds. Once more, it's from the UKV model. And what we can see is it's pretty windy really in the northwest there. We've got gusts of over 40 miles an hour, maybe 50 miles an hour in exposed parts of the northwest. Even as you head southeastwards, it's quite breezy for the time of the year. So again, even though the temperatures don't look too bad as I just showed, there is a possibility for it to be quite windy and for it to feel quite chilly, say, especially when the cloud and the showers come along. Now, I wanted just to show an alternative scenario for the first weekend. These charts are using data from the GFS global model. So this is the one that's run in the United States. The animation was from the comparable model which the Canadian Met Office runs. This one though, the GFS, shows wetter conditions developing through the weekend. So here we are, midday, Saturday, the 14th of August. You can see it's developing that feature to the southwest more significantly than the Canadian model did. And as a result, there are some heavy outbreaks of rain developing across central Britain there, at least for a time. Moving forward to 06 GMT, Sunday the 15th of August, and it's still a wet picture in parts of central Britain, northern England perhaps, drier in the south. And we've got the main area of low pressure up there to the northwest, which is bringing the showery conditions to Scotland, Northern Ireland, possibly even some longer spells of rain there. So this GFS model, these charts are showing a wetter picture through the first weekend than the Canadian model was. Now, the icing on the cake as far as this model run is concerned, if you live in southern counties, is what happens next week. This is 18 GMT, Wednesday the 18th of August. It's not looking great at all. We've got quite a deep area of low pressure spinning up to our south, and that's bringing the risk of heavy outbreaks of rain to southern England. And dry conditions in central and northern areas. But this sort of pattern has developed several times through the summer. So although I don't think it's the most likely outcome, that's why I didn't generate the animation using the GFS data, I did feel as though it was worth showing these charts because it is a possibility. So in terms of rainfall, because of that uncertainty, rather than using the GFS aggregate charts, I brought up the 96-hour accumulated rainfall forecast from the Meteo France model on the left and the German ICON model on the right. They're both showing a similar distribution of rain, wettest in the northwest of the UK through the first 4 days of the forecast period. Not much rain at all in the south and the east and even central Britain. It's a fairly dry picture being shown. As I say though, there is some uncertainty through the weekend. If the GFS is correct, the rainfall totals in central Britain at least would be significantly higher than these charts are showing by Sunday the 15th. So, with uncertainty possibly creeping into the forecast quite early on, how do the deterministic models stack up against each other at 1 week ahead? Firstly, the Canadian model, it has the low pressure moving away eastwards, high pressure building in from the west, so mostly dry across the UK. Next, the GFS model. This one had the low pressure centred over northern France, bringing heavy showery outbreaks of rain to southern, maybe central Britain, high pressure having more influence in the northwest. So that's the wetter scenario. Next, the German ICON model. This has low pressure moving away eastwards, but there is a brisk northerly flow around it, which would probably be bringing showers to the eastern half of the United Kingdom. High pressure there, nudging in from the west, starting to bring drier conditions. So it's closer to the Canadian model than to the GFS. Next, the European ECM. This has high pressure building in as well, with low pressure moving away northeastwards. Finally, the UK Met Office, similar to the ECM, with high pressure building in, bringing drier and potentially warmer conditions. Maybe cooler here, still in the southeast, with the warmth really building in from the northwest. So, taking all of those together, I think the wetter scenario, which the GFS is going for, with the low pressure spinning up to the south of the UK, isn't out of the question, but it's not supported by the other models. The reason I'm not discounting it at this stage is because we have seen that type of pattern develop several times already this summer, so it could happen again. But at the moment, it's more likely that by the end of the first week, high pressure will be having quite a lot of influence on things. So what about the second week of the forecast period? As usual, I'll take a look at the ensemble data to try and identify trends and probabilities rather than specifics. Starting with the 16-day GEFS plot for London and southeastern England. The top half of this shows forecast upper air temperatures, so these are at about 1,500 metres above sea level. The thick black line is the 30-year average. Therefore, through much of the first week, the likelihood is upper air temperatures are going to be a little bit above it. However, towards the end there's a clear dip. Most runs are falling below it for a short time at least. Somewhat cooler conditions returning. but through the second week, there's a definite warming trend beginning to show. It really manifests from around about the 21st to 22nd of August, with most of the individual runs within the GFS then climbing above that thick black line, above the 30-year average. So warmer later. Rainfall across the bottom here. It's dry to begin with, but a few spikes start to appear from around about the 15th of August. So each individual spike is a forecast of rain for that time from one of the runs in the ensemble. And if anything, the number of spikes actually increases around the 18th and 19th, the 20th of August. The thick green line, the biggest spike here, that's showing the forecast from the GFS operational run. If you remember, that was the one which was developing that area of low pressure over France, and that was pushing outbreaks of rain northwards into southern and possibly central Britain. I said the other deterministic models were not really supporting it, and it also looks as though most of the GFS runs don't support it either. There are one or two other spikes around it which are quite big, maybe showing something similar, but I don't think any of the runs in the GEFS are developing that low pressure to the same extent as the GFS operational did. Now, regardless of that, moving forwards through the second week, the number of spikes decreases, and from around about the 22nd of August, it does look to be a mostly dry picture. So warmer and drier later on, a clear trend showing here. Jumping up to the northwest to see what's happening, Glasgow this week. Through the first week, upper air temperatures are often a little bit below the 30-year norm. Nonetheless, there's a warm up possibly there for a short time towards the end of the first week into the beginning of the second week. That's possibly warmer air coming in from the west, the northwest actually. But then there's a dip again. However, from around about the 21st through until the end on the 27th, there's a warming trend like there was on the London plot. In terms of rain, this is a little different to the London one. Rain spikes in the short term, they probably increase here around about the 15th to the 17th of August, but then it maybe turns drier for a short time. On this chart, there are fewer spikes there from around the 18th to about the 20th or 21st. Later on, though, the number of spikes starts to increase again. So here, although there is a warming trend later on, it also looks as though quite a lot of the runs are going for wetter conditions. So perhaps quite an unsettled theme in the northwest, at least more unsettled than in the southeast, with some warmth getting into the mix, but also disturbances probably bringing the risk of showers or longer spells of rain at times. Looking at the 2-metre temperatures to see if there's a warming trend down at the ground level for us to experience, here's the 16-day data table for London. So looking really at the second week, there is clearly an upwards trend there in the amount of dark orange and light red showing. Dark orange very dominant, and the amount of light red increasing. That's the 21 to 25 Celsius category and the 26 to 30 Celsius category. Towards the end, in fact, at the very end, there's a little bit of pinky red, one run, which is going for greater than 30 Celsius. I think it's unlikely, still possible though, something to keep an eye on. I think the message here is forget the 30 Celsius or above. There is nonetheless a warming trend, and through the second week, temperatures are more likely to be above the average, possibly becoming warmer, even very warm at times. Jumping up to Glasgow, the trend here is a similar one, albeit at a lower level. Seen this type of pattern several times recently with cooler conditions, as you would expect, heading northwestwards. This time it's the light orange which is dominant in the columns. That's the 16 to 20 Celsius category. There is some darker red increasing there up to about 30, darker orange increasing up to about 30%. That's the 21 to 25 Celsius bracket. So let's say there is that warming trend showing on the Glasgow plot, but also with the number of runs going for an increasing risk of rain, I think it's a more mixed picture, more unsettled as you head northwestwards. Looking at the 2-metre temperature spread, these charts are all from the GEFS, their forecast maximums for Friday, the 20th of August. I showed this type of thing last week, just to give an indication of a range of solutions within the ensemble model. Last week, the hottest one was about 14 degrees warmer than the coolest. This week, the range is actually quite a lot narrower. It's on the left here, the maximums in southern and central Britain are 25 Celsius. That's at the top end of the ensemble. The lower end of the ensemble on the right has maximums of about 17 or 18 Celsius. So this week, the spread between the hottest and coolest runs is only about 7 or 8 degrees. To look at the rain prospects in a little more detail, I'll use the 16-day data tables. This one is for London, southeastern England. The important thing to understand here is that each column is showing the forecast output from all of the runs in the GEFS at the given time. Light grey is going for completely dry conditions. Dark grey, just small amounts of rain, with blues, purples, greens going for larger totals. Therefore, through the second week, the dark greys and light greys are dominant. That's suggesting a predominantly dry outlook. Jumping up to the northwest to Glasgow, here there's less light grey, but there's still a lot of dark grey appearing. Also, though, more blues, purples, greens, yellows and oranges. What this is showing is a greater risk of rain, a greater risk of significant rain as you head northwestwards. Nonetheless, I think if this pattern turned out to be correct, if the profile here is on the mark, there would still be reasonable drier interludes. It's not looking like a washout. Taking a look at the pressure forecasts, here's the 16-day plot for York. In the short term, pressure is close to the average, but it is dipping towards the end of the first week as areas of low pressure come into play. But through the second week, there's an upwards trend showing there, and the mean of the ensemble, the purple line, it's around about 1,020 millibars, even a little over at times. Therefore, the likelihood is pressure will be slightly above the norm. That's what's been favoured at the moment. It also suggests the likelihood of drier than average conditions. Another way of looking at the pressure forecasts is to take the ensemble mean at a given time. This is at Saturday, the 21st of August. We can see the UK here. The 1,015 millibar lines heading to our north and into Scandinavia. So it's suggesting that high pressure, probably building up from the Azores into the UK, will be having quite a lot of influence at times. The European ensemble at the same time shows a very similar profile. There's a 1,015 line going to the north of the UK. So once again, high pressure probably being quite influential, especially in the south. So to summarise the next 2 weeks, week 1, generally changeable, but there is uncertainty about the evolution of low pressure areas. There is a chance of showery spells of rain during the weekend in central and southern parts of Britain, but in general, the wettest conditions are likely to be in the northwest and the drier ones in the south or southeast. Could be quite warm at times. In the south, in central areas too, generally cooler as you head northwards. Week 2, confidence is quite low as usual, but the expectation is for high pressure to have more influence. That means that there should be an increasing amount of dry weather, particularly in the south and the southeast. The risk of rain, at least showery rain, remains greater as you head northwestwards. There's also a trend showing towards warmer conditions later on, possibly becoming very warm in the south during the last few days of the forecast period. So there we have it, a mixed first week. The potential for it to turn drier and warmer through the second week, especially in the south. But of course, at that range, confidence is low. So whether or not that's going to turn out to be a jam tomorrow scenario or not, we shall see. However, regardless, I do hope you found this video useful and enjoyed it. If so, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Thanks for watching now. Bye.